Life can be demanding, so it takes a special person to pack a lot into one life and achieve success. Today, we're going to meet one such person, and the best thing is, he's a fellow Scouser. Sir James Allinson Picton was a prominent architect, surveyor, and a councillor who was the driving force behind the construction of Liverpool's first public library. He was a promoter of public libraries, a linguist, and a regular traveller home and abroad. So it's no surprise he had a road and few famous landmarks in Liverpool named after him. James Picton was born in Liverpool on Highfield Street of Tyburn Street on 2nd of December 1805. He later lived in Warren Street near Brownlow Hill, then Laurel Road off Edge Lane, and finally moved to Wavertree in 1848. James's father, William Picton, was a builder, a joiner, and a timber merchant. He began his working life by joining his father's business at the age of 13, but later chased his ambition to become an architect. He trained with Daniel Stewart, an architect and a surveyor, and eventually took over his business until he retired in 1866. James was a student of local history and a big fan of anything old and historical. He wrote his famous two-volume work entitled Memorials of Liverpool in 1873 and 1875, which remains one of the leading reference books on the city's buildings and personalities. James also previously published Architectural History of Liverpool in 1858, but the Memorials of Liverpool is his main work. His eldest son, Reverend James Picton, shares his same name and was elected MP for Leicester. Another son, William Henry Picton, became an architect like his dad. William's work included the former Victoria Welsh Chapel in Crosshall Street. Picton was a seasoned traveller. He had a habit of touring different parts of Britain and Europe each summer. In 1848, Sir James Picton moved to Wavertree after designing a house called Knowe in Mill Lane the year before. It's a large red sandstone Grade 2 listed Victorian house. It's located almost halfway up Mill Lane, opposite entrance to Mount Royal, a housing estate built in 1990s on the site of the Olive Mount Children's Hospital. The street names on this estate, such as Swan Crescent, Crosley Drive, Hollands Close, etc., commemorate former owners of old Olive Mount Mansion. Sir James designed Sandino for himself and his family in the then village of Wavertree, which was by that time a highly desirable place for the rich people to build their villas away from the polluted atmosphere of the town of Liverpool, especially the city centre. He chose this spot as it was the highest point of Olive Mount at 215 feet above sea level. He named the house Sandino. Picton was a literary scholar, so he named the house after a farm near Kelso, where Sir Walter Scott was brought up in the Scottish border country. The building displays the Picton family arms and it housed James's own private library. after Sir James died here in 1889. The house was later used as an independent Methodist church. In 1975, it was converted and extended by Merseyside Improved Houses to form sheltered flats. Throughout his life, James Picton played an important role in Liverpool's heritage. In 1849, he became a prominent member of Liverpool Town Council. 2 years later, in 1851, he became a member and later chairman of Wavertree Local Board of Health. But one of his most significant contributions was in the field of public libraries. He was the first chairman of the Public Library, Museum and Gallery of Arts Committee, which was founded in 1851, when James was only 46 years old. He remained chairman until his death, almost 40 years. He started to campaign for a public library for the borough. Thanks to him, in 1852, it became a reality when an Act of Parliament was passed allowing Liverpool Corporation the collection of funds or raising of a penny rate for a public library and a museum. William Brown, a wealthy local merchant and banker, provided the buildings for the library and museum on the condition that corporation furnished the interior. Following his generous contribution, the corporation renamed the street after him, and that's how Shaw's Brow became William Brown Street. In 1875, they decided to add an extension to the new museum and library. The foundation stone was laid on 2nd December 1875 by James Picton, who had by then been the chairman of libraries for almost 25 years. Cornelius Sherlock, a fellow Scouser who designed the Walker Art Gallery, was selected as the designer. The extension was completed 4 years later in 1879 and formally opened by the Mayor of Liverpool, Sir Thomas Bland Royden. It was a reading room, modelled after British Museum Reading Room, the main reading room of British Library in London. This is a further testament to Picton's commitment to culture and education. They called it Picton Reading Room as mark of respect to Sir James Picton. Today, it's a Grade II listed building forming major part of Liverpool's Central Library. The front is semicircular design with Corinthian columns. The words Picton Reading Room cut deep in the stone. Inside, located on first floor, you'll find an imposing large circular room filled with rare books of every age and tongue. The dome ceiling, lighting, and iron staircases are stunning. In one of the bays, near the Hornby reading room entrance and clock, stands the bust of Sir James Picton, sculpted by J.A.P. McBride. It's the first electrically lit public building in Liverpool and most likely the first library in the country to have electric lighting, a novel concept at the time. Interestingly, they laid on gas supply to the reading room as backup just in case the electric lighting provided to be unreliable or inadequate. It is said the library was open until 10 p.m. each evening to encourage locals to avoid staying in the pubs all night long, especially as drinking alcohol was a big problem back then. So nothing's changed then. Whether you're a book lover or not, the Picton Reading Room will leave you speechless. It's one of the most beautiful libraries in UK. Sir James Picton is the architect responsible for some of Liverpool's loveliest 19th century buildings, including many city centre based offices which still survive today. Almost all are Grade 2 listed. Around 1830, he designed number 8 to 10 Burham Terrace in Kensington, which famously became the first mosque in Britain, the Abdullah Quilliam Masjid. In 1854, he designed Melbourne Building, which is also known as Melbourne House, on number 19 to 21 North John Street. This was originally built by Sir James. In 20th century, it was home to the Solicitors Law Stationery Society, a company which supplied office products to lawyers and law firms. The ugly rooftop extension was added in 1975. In 1859, he designed the Union Marine Buildings on 11 Dale Street. It was an office built for the Queen Insurance Company. That same year, he designed the Hargreaves Building on 5 Chapel Street. This was built as a headquarters for Sir William Brown and used by the Liverpool Racquet Club between 1895 and 2001. It's now a hotel and a restaurant. Between 1864 and 1865, Sir James designed the temple on 22 to 24 Dale Street, which was also another office for Sir William Brown. Most famously, Sir James designed the Fowler's Building on number 1 to 3 Temple Lane and 3 to 9 Victoria Street. This was built as offices for Fowler brothers, who were prominent merchants. Sir James also designed the Corn Exchange on Fenwick Street. The former Corn Exchange was later replaced by a new building in 1953. He designed many more things, including churches such as the Richmond Baptist Church on Breck Road, the Holy Trinity Church in Hoylake, and St Bartholomew's Church in Berkshire. Sir James also designed banks such as the Mercantile and Exchange Bank on 48 to 50 Castle Street. But arguably for his most famous design, at least what he is known for amongst the general public in Liverpool, we have to go closer to his home in Knowe in Wavertree. 10 minutes walk away from Sir James Picton's home of Knowe, At the junction of High Street, Chilwell Road and Church Road North in Wavertree area is a historic clock tower passed by hundreds of drivers every day. Possibly unaware, it's a symbol of love from a husband to his wife. It's the Picton Clock Tower, more popularly known as just Picton Clock. The local landmark in the center of a busy roundabout is 140 years old and presented to people of Wavertree by Sir James. It was designed by Picton himself as a memorial to his wife Sarah Pooley. She died 5 years earlier on 15 February 1879. The pair had been married for over 50 years. The clock tower provided Picton with creative impetus to stop him sinking altogether into his grief. When you've been together with a partner for over 50 years, the pain of losing them is hard to understand for many of us, especially nowadays when people are getting divorced so quickly and relationships really last that long. One secret to James and Sarah's relationship is possibly the time they spent apart each year. Every summer, Picton would go traveling in Europe alone, sketching old buildings, etc. He would send loads of postcards to his wife back in Mill Lane, telling her what a great time he was having while she was looking after the children. So after Sarah passed away, James thought his wife deserved the clock tower, and he also wanted to give something back to the people in Wavertree. James deliberately chose this spot so clock could be seen by as many people as possible. This was the center of the old village, and the village would have been built around this junction. Before the clock was built, the junction was marked by a big lamp, a well-known local landmark, which marked the parting ways for travellers to Old Swan, Chilwell and Gattaca. But in 1884, the big lamp was replaced by this captivating landmark. Renaissance in its style, James Picton designed the Picton clock so it had both architectural elements as well as personal sentimental value. There are round-headed windows topped off with clock faces facing every direction, adding a touch of elegance. The dome and spire crowning the building invite you to look towards the sky. The base of the tower is roughly 4.5 meters by 4.2 meter, and the tower is approximately 11 meter high. But these are my measurements, which I made quickly using a tape measure, so be careful of spreading them as concrete facts. What is 100% true though is that there are 3 stone plaques on each side and access door to tower, and above these are rooms at each corner. One plaque is James' dedication to his wife, while the other 2 are poems. The plaque facing Church Road North has "Time wasted is existence, used is life." This is fitting for Picton as he packed so much in 83 years. The one facing High Street dedicates the tower to his beloved wife Sarah Pooley. Picton still referred to her by her maiden name after 50 years of marriage. The tower is surrounded on 4 sides by iron street lamps and has marine details such as dolphins at their base. Back in those days, very few people had watches or radio sets, so villagers of Liverpool would tell their children to go and see what time is by Sarah Pooley. Incredibly, this 19th century clock still works today, showing the correct time for the people of Liverpool. Therefore, it's no surprise that it's been listed as a Grade 2 landmark. Next to the clock is a disused building. When Liverpool had the tramway system, it would come as far as this point on High Street, and the Picton clock was the terminal. And this building was the former waiting room and toilets. But they have been out of use for many decades now and remain locked and abandoned. Personally, I hate this building and would like to see it gone. It's not functional and dangerous for people to cross the busy roundabout to access it. It's fairly drab to look at, especially as it's next to a beautiful structure that is a tribute from a famous husband to his wife of 50 years. Something so personal and romantic deserves better company. Instead, I'd love it if the roundabout was beautified using plants and flowers, but definitely no adverts. They can be distracting for drivers and lead to accidents. Few meters away from Picton Clock is the Wavertree Lock-up. This was originally built in 1796 to detain local troublemakers, usually drunks, as they didn't have a police station then. It was the job of the village constable to round up offenders and lock them overnight until they were sober to be released or taken before local magistrate. Wavertree was one of the few areas in Liverpool to boost a village lock-up, commonly known as the Roundhouse, despite being octagonal in shape. The other surviving one is the Everton Lock-up. It is said that cholera victims stayed here and isolated themselves from rest of locals. And in 1840s, the Wavertree Lock-up served as a temporary accommodation for destitute Irish families trekking out from Liverpool to surrounding countryside. But the lock-up was abandoned when a police station was opened in High Street. The Wavertree Local Board of Health decided to destroy it in 1868. However, James Picton was the chairman of the board, and he intervened and came up with a rescue plan. His beautification of the lock-up involved replacing the original flat roof with a pyramidal slate roof and adding a weather vane on top, which they did the following year in 1869, and exactly like we see it today. Though sadly at the time of recording this video, the weather vane was broken. So thanks to Sir James Picton that we still have this fascinating prison cell and refuge that's nearly 230 years old. In 1881, 76-year-old James Picton became Sir James Picton as he was knighted by Queen Victoria in recognition of his high attainments and public services. This is possibly a reference to his services to literature and arts, especially his public library activities and writing his book The Memorials of Liverpool. 8 years later, and on the 10th death anniversary of his wife, Sir James Allinson Picton died on 15th July 1889 at his home of Knowe. He was 84 years old. He was buried in Toxteth Park Cemetery on Smithdown Road, where his wife Sarah Pooley was also buried. Today, in the city of Liverpool, the Picton Reading Room and Central Library, the Wavertree Picton Library on High Street, and Picton Road, which is the continuation of High Street towards Liverpool city centre, are named in Sir James Picton's honour. And for a long time the lifestyle sport complex behind the Wavertree Picton Library was known informally as Picton Sports Centre, and his swimming pool was called Picton Baths. Today the sports centre is called Liverpool Aquatic Centre. Surrounding it is the Wavertree Playground, known commonly as the Mystery, one of the first purpose-built playgrounds in UK. However, growing up, many people of my generation also called the Mystery Picton Park. Liverpool is a city that is rich in personal, social and architectural history. As a Scouser, it's very inspiring to learn about local heroes who packed a lot in their life and left behind a positive legacy, not only in Liverpool, but nationwide. In an age when everyone is too busy looking down on their mobile and walking, it warms my heart to know that there's a landmark near my doorstep, which is a testament of love and remembrance.